So after Shedeur Sanders' impressive performance in his preseason game on Friday night, I would say the common opinion that I've seen is that the Browns should name him the starter because of how good he looked in that first preseason game. And I think there's also this idea out there that if the Browns, for whatever reason, make the decision that he's not going to be their starter week one, that somehow they're trying to sabotage him, somehow they don't want to see him succeed, which I do not think is the case whatsoever, because if that was the case, if you don't want to see Shedeur Sanders succeed, why would you waste a fifth-round draft pick on Shedeur Sanders? I think that they clearly would love him to succeed, because if he comes in and he dominates, that helps every single person in the organization. So this idea that they don't want to see him succeed, I just do not think that is the case whatsoever. And I think the reality is, if the Browns make the decision to sit Shedeur Sanders week one, it may be very well because they're doing their best, in their power, to try to set him up for the best possible likelihood of success. Because he's a young quarterback, he's a guy that's still new in this Browns offense. You have Joe Flacco, who, yes, he's not going to be, an elite top 10 quarterback, but I think he's average. He's good enough to run the offense and win you some games, no doubt. And if you put Shedeur Sanders out there week one, could he come in and right away be a really good quarterback? I think that's definitely a possibility, especially considering what we saw in his performance in his first preseason game. But at the same time, what if you put him out there, he struggles, he isn't able to adapt as the first few weeks go on, the pressure builds on him, people are starting to question, should they be doing this, should they try, someone else out? They may do him a favor by saying, you know what, we're going to let Joe Flacco go out there. Maybe he plays the whole season. Maybe we don't see Shedeur till next year, but we're going to allow Shedeur to acclimate to the NFL. We're going to allow him to learn behind Joe Flacco, watch Joe Flacco, sort of see how he operates, because there's no doubt Flacco knows how to operate as an NFL quarterback, and there's definitely a ton of things that Shedeur Sanders could learn from Flacco. And so sitting behind Flacco could lead to Shedeur having a more successful career than being thrown out there week one. Now, personally, who would I want to see? If I made the decision for the Browns, who would I put out there week one? Probably Shedeur Sanders, just because I think from what we saw in the preseason game, the kind of player he is, I think there's a very good chance that he could go out there week one and be a solid quarterback and learn as he goes. I think that you see in the NFL, there are many instances of guys sitting and finding success. There's also many instances of guys not sitting and they end up finding success as well. But I think that, if you think about either decision, can it hurt Shedeur Sanders going out week one? Yes. If he's not fully ready, to handle the offense, if he's not fully ready to handle everything the Browns think he needs to handle, it could potentially hurt his confidence early on. And I think with some quarterbacks, we've seen that hurt them in the long run, where let's say they sat him all season long, which I don't think that's the best idea, but let's say they did all season long. Is he in a worse position going into next season if he was the starter? Absolutely not. I mean, what could possibly be bad about learning for a whole season, not going out there, maybe picking up some bad mistakes if the offense isn't operating as the Browns want it to operate? A year of learning could very well take Shedeur Sanders to another level when he, plays his first real-life NFL game snaps. And I think, you look at Patrick Mahomes, the fact that he pretty much sat out most of his rookie season as the 10th overall pick, and Shedeur Sanders is the 5th-round pick. And so, you see Andy Reid making that decision. That's not because he did not believe in Mahomes. It's not because the Chiefs picked, Mahomes 10th overall, and Andy Reid was like, you know what, I don't want to see Patrick Mahomes succeed, so I'm just going to not play him his rookie season. That wasn't the case. He wanted Mahomes to learn behind a veteran who had proven success in the NFL, who knew how to operate an NFL offense, and he wanted Mahomes to be able to pick up some of those things before he had to go out himself and, play as a quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. And that worked out for Patrick Mahomes. And looking at Kevin Stefanski's comments after Shedeur Sanders' performance, he didn't really hype him up a ton. He sounded like he was excited about what Shedeur Sanders did and that he did some good things, but it sounded to me like he was trying to, temper the expectations. And I don't think that's because he doesn't, want Shedeur to be successful. I think it's because he recognizes if he comes out after that and is like, man, you know what? Shedeur really excited us here. He's going to be the guy. Clearly, he's going to be a legit NFL starter. You just put a ton of more pressure on Shedeur Sanders, where Stefanski probably understands that if he were to put Shedeur Sanders out week 1, there's going to be learning experiences. There's going to be moments for him to learn and develop, and weaknesses he has to overcome, likely entering the NFL. And he probably doesn't want to put too much pressure on Shedeur, where there's already a ton of pressure there already on his shoulders. So him not hyping him up and maybe not giving as much praise as people think Shedeur deserves may actually be Stefanski not trying to put too much pressure on his shoulders too soon. So it's going to be fun to watch to sort of see how this QB situation plays out, but I definitely think the Browns want to see Shedeur Sanders succeed.